Hello and welcome to No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. From opposing quotas for the poor to a confrontation with the governor for sitting on a number of bills, the DMK has really been making headlines this week. The party, firstly, has taken a consistent stand that reservations should not be based on economic criteria but social backwardness, and are planning to file a review petition in the Supreme Court against the top court's order which upheld a 10% quota for the poor. But there's also a growing standoff between the government of Tamil Nadu and the governor, with the DMK now writing to the president calling for Governor RN Ravi's removal, even accusing him of instigating communal hatred. There are a number of bills that are awaiting the governor's consent, which has sparked off this row between the state government led by the DMK and the governor's office. Well, joining us now, Tamil Nadu's finance minister, Mr. P. Thiagarajan. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Thiagarajan. To ask you first about the governor, a very strongly worded letter has gone from the DMK to the president demanding the governor's removal. Amongst other things, you have accused him of obstructing a democratically elected government and instigating communal hatred. Can you explain how?
First, Nidhi, I'd like to make a slight distinction here. I think you cannot interchange DMK and government of Tamil Nadu in your statements. Unlike certain people like the BJP, we understand the constitutional separation between an elected government and its role on the one hand, and a political party on the other. Even if that party happens to be running the administration because of a majority in the legislature or the parliament, it still needs to separate what is the government's view from what is the party's view. So I want to make that distinction because it's crucial to a couple of points. As far as the reservations are concerned, it is the government's view of the government of Tamil Nadu that these are in violation of various aspects of previous Supreme Court judgments and our notion of social justice and so forth. And this is an official communication from the government of Tamil Nadu to the government, to the appropriate authorities. And it will be a government appeal rather than an individual appeal if the review petition is filed. As far as the governor is concerned, it is from not just the DMK party and its MPs, but also all the coalition partners who have made a point and a representation to the president that the functioning of the administration has been thwarted or interrupted or interfered with by the governor. Now, I want to make that distinction again because in the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly in the past, there had been debates where the governor was excoriated and kind of, spoken about in less than decorous terms. And so what had happened was that in the previous DMK administered government, Talavar Kalaignar had moved a motion in the House that when sitting in government, we shall not have any derogatory discussions, and the House shall always respect the office of the governor. And so as a sitting minister, I can talk about facts, but I'm not going to comment on, allegations or speculation about the governor.
But how did it reach this point where you have this letter that, as I said, has been written to the president, and how have things sort of degenerated to this point, this relationship between the state and the governor?
Well, again, I'll say one thing with great standing because I'm a sitting minister in the cabinet of the government, and I'll say one thing more as an individual. With great standing and qualification, I would say that many of our bills have either not been passed or are sat on or not even sent up to Delhi at the appropriate time. And that is a clearly unconstitutional act. Nowhere in the vision of the founders of our country or the framers of the Constitution was there room for the personal views of one unelected individual appointed by the union government, by the president on the advice of the union government, to second guess or to have an opinion about legislation that is passed by the elected assembly, a member, an assembly of elected state representatives. In some cases, unanimous resolutions he has sat on for months and months. This is not within the ambit of the role of the governor in any democracy. Unelected, appointed people don't get to make that kind of call. You take it to the, as an individual, I'd say one thing. I would say that the role of governor is one that should have high dignity and extreme decorum. And it's very unseemly for people sitting in the office of governor to start espousing philosophical views about, things that are beyond the Constitution or have their own opinion about how society ought to be run, etc. Those are things you can do as a, street level politician. Those are not things you're supposed to do sitting as the governor of one of the largest and most industrious states with the second largest economy in the country. It's completely unbecoming for that role.
But when you say that he has instigated communal hatred, are there specific examples of that?
No, as I say, I'm not going, as a sitting minister, I don't want to get into castigating the governor of the state. I'm not going to get into details. I've told you, practically our bills are not getting cleared. I can give you a list.
Are you worried, Ms. Thiagarajan, that this is not confined to Tamil Nadu alone? We're seeing a trend now, especially with 3 southern states, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Telangana, where there are ugly confrontations right now between the state government and the office of the governor. And therefore, what is the larger message that's coming out of that?
Yeah, I would just make the observation again, other people can get to that level of detail. I would just make the observation that it is worth noting that these are all states where A, the government is not of the BJP, and B, where the BJP has very little electoral presence, if any, right? Hardly in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, in the few single-digit percentages of votes or single-digit representatives, or Andhra for that matter, or Telangana for that matter. So I think, it is regrettable that governments which are run, by parties other than the BJP seem to be facing greater interference or greater, what can I say, hurdles from governors appointed by a BJP union government.
On the issue of reservations, again, this is something that most political parties in the country have welcomed. As you said, the state government of Tamil Nadu has taken a position on the issue of reservations based on economic criteria. But what do you say to those, including the court, which believes that, in a sense, the criteria for reservations has to change with time, and therefore, if it was based on socially backward groups at one point, it needs to look at economically weaker sections as well?
Yeah, I apologize. I have to run to the airport. I'll just make 4 points, all concrete points with data. The first is that it's hard for you to eradicate the effects of 1,000 years of caste bias in 75 years of independence. So I think this notion that, hypothetically at some point it should change, I agree, but the point is, probably many years away. The second, there is complete disparity in various judgments of the courts at different points, where the Supreme Court has held in the past that economic criteria alone cannot be the basis of any reservation. And there are many, precedent judgments that have been overturned or contradicted by this judgment that gives, reservations above the 50%. Third, the number of 8 lakhs is just a completely outrageous, egregious number, right? In the country, there are about 50 million people that file returns, and about 17 million, 1.7 crore of them actually pay income tax. Considering what the income tax level is, basically 8 lakhs is hugely beyond the weakest sections of society. We are a country where the per capita income is about 1,35,000 rupees, and where the income tax rate already is set effectively at about 5 lakh rupees. Now you say that there are only 17 people paying actual taxes, 17 million people, and you have a reservation of 10% for effectively the same level of income, up to the same level of income, where on the other side you say that's the creamy layer and you exclude them from the OBC and other reservations. So what you have carved out, and many people have shown us this, what you have carved out is that there's a 10% quota for about 3 or 4% of the population that can apply, and all of them are relatively well off. Now, the last point I'll make is, this becomes evident when you look at the few instances where they have already implemented this, where the cutoff marks for the EWS are almost always lower than the BC cutoff marks. And in other places where, in some cases we have seen, they're actually lower than the SC cutoff marks. So effectively, you have created a lower hurdle for people who could be earning 8 lakhs a year, which is more than 4 times the per capita income, and much higher than the income tax level, of which only 1% or 1.8% of our country pays income taxes in the first place. So this design is structurally flawed if your ambition was really to focus on the truly economically weak. I would say these are the 4 reasons we're against it.
All right, as you said, it doesn't really benefit the truly economically weak, and you can't, in a sense, wish away caste-based discrimination that's been there for centuries either. Dr. Thiagarajan, thanks very much for joining us today on those 2 important issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.